it was a marriage of two things, one of opportunity and one of interest. And so I think that's why I've been able to sit in it and just be true to that one core thing for so long, is because I'm still in that happy place of inspiration and opportunity.
Welcome to the Adventure Podcast by BidX. I'm your host, Joie Roberts. Get ready to dive into the world of Amazon PPC with today's amazing guest, Elizabeth Greene, the co-founder of Jungler and a true expert in scaling brands through smart advertising strategies. Elizabeth is known for her data-driven approach, turning even the trickiest campaigns into profitable success stories. Now, when you're not geeking out over ad metrics, I know that you are out there helping sellers set big picture goals that align with their unique brand visions. Whether you're just starting out or looking to refine your strategy, Elizabeth is here to inspire, educate, and help you crush it on Amazon. Elizabeth, I'm so thrilled you're here.
No, I'm excited to be here. Always enjoy our conversations, so it's fun to hit record.
It really is. It is. On and off the mic, it's always a great conversation. So let's share with our listeners a couple things I already know about you, but tell us, how did you get started on Amazon?
I'll give you the short version. So we wanted something where my husband and I could both work from home. I was at home, he was not. That led into the world of e-com, of course, which led to the world of Amazon, which led to the world of resellers, which is a whole beast in and of itself, which led to private label, which led to advertising. And so it was a very natural migration. It turns out I love ads. I have been told, I don't want to toot my own horn, but whenever I'm talking about ads, you can tell I have a passion for it because it's legitimate, and I do. So I realized that I could help people out, which is kind of what I'm all about, and also do something that I absolutely love. And so shifted into just going full on into advertising management. That hasn't changed in the last 6 or 7 years, which means I've been doing this full time, only this all day, every day, sometimes weekends, for 6 or 7 years, and I'm still not tired, which is surprising.
That is surprising. Yeah, I mean, you're doing ads for 6 years and not shaking it up. And I've been selling like 5 years. And some days I'm like, I love selling, but like, I like to mix in other things too. So you really must love and breathe it. How do you keep going? What keeps you inspired in the ad world?
That's a good question. So, I mean, let's be real, right? I think we all have those days.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, that there's always going to be a day you're like, I have to do this, I have to do that. I think actually the part that I found really geeks me out, and where I really started geeking out about it, was originally when we would be trying to solve something for advertising. And it's like, to make good decisions, you need to have good information. And so I would go down the rabbit hole of like trying to figure out, how do I get this information? And if anyone's tried to do it manually, like, there's so many platforms and things. Well, let's be honest. I don't want to say I was scrappy. Okay. I didn't want to have to pay for enterprise software. Enterprise has got everything, but they also have the big bucks. I did not. So I was like, all right, I got to figure this out, which means it's a heck ton of downloads and a heck ton of figuring out where things are in spreadsheets, and like, wait, this data point connects to this data point. Oh, wait, this one is not exactly the same. Why is that? Okay, let's go read the document. And I just like that process I fell in love with. It's like problem solving, and which has actually been really interesting. So I don't have a programming background. I would have loved to have learned programming. I think I probably would have been okay at it, but I just don't have the time at this point, so I hired the programmer. But the interesting thing is, because I went through that of how do you get this information and how does this relate to that and what are the different data sets and how do they combine and how do they not combine, it actually made it so when I do talk to people who do have software, or I'm talking with brands, I'm like, oh yeah, you look at this, this, and this, and here's where you get that piece of information, and that piece of information relates to this. And so I now have a team underneath me coming up with like really insane granular strategies, but I'm able to like bridge that gap between like people who are in the weeds and then the high level sort of like what does the brand need to happen, because I sort of have that data piece. So I found my spark, I found my excitement. And as we've grown, I can move more into that happy place, which to me has been phenomenal.
Yes, and you're finding those little nuggets like, aha, this is maybe where you're wasting your ad spend, or you need to layer your approach more. Okay, yeah, thanks for breaking that down. That completely makes sense. And you're helping brands grow, so you get to help people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that you're really big into goal setting. So that's just something I know about you just from knowing you. And with goal setting in advertising, let's talk about it first with building Jungler. Like setting these goals to build Jungler. Like what even got you to start Jungler?
I mean, it was a marriage of two things, one of opportunity and one of interest. And so I think that's why I've been able to sit in it and just be true to that one core thing for so long, is because I'm still in that happy place of inspiration and opportunity. And let's be honest, there's more agencies out there, right? But there's also more brands more than ever. And so
Sure.
it is harder to carve out a space, but I think we've carved out who we want to work with and how we want to work, and that's served us very well. Last couple years, we've really started, in the beginning, it's kind of like, all right, let's do all the things, let's help all the people. And then at some point, you pick your head up and you go, okay, this is who I love to work with. This is who I get the results for. Okay. And I found a lot of value of like retroactively, like looking at what works. So and I'm in a really interesting point personally right now where like what I have found is I always seem to fail when I try and build the system first. I don't know if that's a personal thing. I don't know if that's a life in general good practice. I don't know. All I have found is that when I'm okay with the messy in the beginning, not messy in terms of results, but messy in terms of like someone might look at that and be like, you're wasting a ton of time because you're like all over still manually pulling stuff. Like what, you have software, you have API, like what do you like, why are you trying to puzzle over these random spreadsheets over a weekend? Like this seems like a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
But what I've found is that I'll always come back to that and go, oh, so I'm trying to understand this new concept, but actually that relates to this concept, and there's a half piece of something else I got from some other random place, and we can build it into something new. So for me, like a lot of goal setting is more seeing what the trajectory looks like and then refining what has worked in the past. So like looking at all the pieces that seem very scattered and then saying, okay, well, I know that piece kind of relates to this piece, but these two things worked and that one has the biggest impact. So like, let me take all the good pieces. Let me see if they all make sense together. Oftentimes they do, or they relate in some way. And then you can say, okay, based on these things, now I can just take these things and then move forward because I see where that path is. Anytime I try to be like, all right, here's projections and like, let me try and branch into the unknown with things that I barely know, I always end up in the wrong spot. I do.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, selling on Amazon and running agencies as well. And it is a great approach to do your data-driven goal settings and almost work backwards from the little pieces you have. Well, why did that piece come together? How does this fit? And then grow from there. And there's a bit of resilience in there too, learning and just moving forward and moving quickly too, because the ad space moves really fast.
It does. It does. It moves really
Yeah,
fast.
it really does. And then let's talk about maybe we'll come back to that. I was going to go into big picture thinking, but first I want to talk before big picture thinking. Let's talk about just challenges in general and what are reoccurring challenges you see from managing brands accounts.
I think the biggest thing is something that I think a lot of us saw in 2024 and is going to get carried into 2025 is just the squeezing of margins and bottom line and how much more difficult. People say like, oh, it's more difficult than ever to sell on Amazon. I don't necessarily think that, like from just a general standpoint. Like there is more information, there is more support, there is more data, there is more everything these days than there ever was in the back. Like people talk about like the good old days when there was like, it was just because there was not that much competition. Let's be honest, that's really what made it the good old days, is there wasn't any opposition, or if there was, it was very little. And so the people who were willing to go in there honestly blind, and I commend me, like even when I was coming up, it's like, yeah, it was a while ago, but like there were people ahead of me who had gotten their hands on the ad platform, years before, when Amazon like just kind of threw it out there and there was like auto campaign and there was like nothing and everybody was flying blind, right? And the people who got in got their hands dirty, like they were the ones who got the 2-cent cost per clicks, and it was fantastic. And then it started to change, and so it's gotten considerably more complex, and yet I think the ethos is still the same, which makes it very, interesting. So it's gotten more complex in there's more information, so there's more data points to use to make decisions, which you would think would be a benefit, and it is if you know how to do it, and it's insanely overwhelming if you don't. And so like the ethos is still how many shoppers are coming to your listing. Of those shoppers coming to your listing, how many of them are converting, and then how much do you make at the end of the day when they place an order, and how much did you pay to get that order, i.e. profits. Like all of those things working, that's what you focus on, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's completely complex, right? I mean, you got to deal with seller support and you got to deal with inventory. Insanely complex. But when it comes to growing brands, like that, those are the data points that you look at. But the problems are there's so many things that are interconnected to that. And it's kind of like the ad platform. It's really, where are ads showing up? When they show up, are people clicking? When they click, how much are we paying? And then how much are we making when they purchase, if they purchase? Like you're using all of these data points and all of these like multiple decisions to decide how do you do those things better.
Yeah.
And so with this whole like, like I'm saying, I love getting in there and getting my hands dirty and trying to figure out, it's really, what information does Amazon give me that I can pull that allow me to make those decisions better and quicker? Because I think that's really where the platform is evolving to, which means it's becoming more sophisticated. Because it's like, well, the people who have the best information are going to make the best decisions. And also the people who have the best information and can make decisions the quickest are going to be the ones to win. So us going into 2025, we're saying, hey, the playing field is stacked with gorillas. How do we make sure that we have the information our brands need to be able to move and evolve and pivot so we can still win? Because I think you can still win. I know you can still win. We have brands that are winning. It's just, can you make the decisions necessary to play that game? I think that's the hard part.
It is. And it's the balancing of, like you were saying, your margin with your A cost. And, from what I've seen and where I've been selling, and I started selling without, just on my own, running my own ads, and learned it enough to a point, and I could have kept going. But I do feel like now going forward, 2025, you really need that expert set of eyes looking at the balance. Because if your A cost is not where it needs to be and it's cutting into your margin, and the smallest little tweak wrong puts you just where you're losing money. And that's where Amazon sellers quit. And that's the last thing we want, is people to stop selling. Because if you're getting sales, and especially when you hit that $10,000 mark, then you're like, okay, I really need to start ramping up. Let's keep on the topic of 2025. What about product launch strategies? Like what's new? What's going on with your strategies and tactics that you're implementing at Jungler?
Yeah, our strategies have definitely shifted over the years. And I have to say, so we have a new product launch strategy. I've only shared it with a couple selective people so far, not because I don't plan on putting it out there. I just haven't gotten around to it, honestly. And the cool thing that I love about what we're doing is we kind of have like this push-pull approach to ad strategy. Meaning I think there are going to always be like defined processes and best practices, right? You should be adjusting your bids, should be adjusting your budgets, should be adding negative keywords, should be looking for new keyword potential, all of those things, which by the way, if you're not doing that, that's like the bare minimum to enter the arena these days. So like maybe go talk to somebody or figure out a system. But then we also have like our boots on the ground ad managers. And so there's a couple ways you can build agencies. The way that we're building ours is I want to get freaking good people. I want to give them the space to do what they do best. I want to give them parameters. I want to give them oversight so we can see when things are shifting and go wrong, and then see where something goes right and have somebody go in there and say, what the heck are you doing? Tell us all about it. Let's adjust our strategies, because what I don't like is there has to be somebody at the top sort of dictating. So that's kind of where I am. Again, with the data analysis, it's helpful for me because I can say, okay, well, let's tweak this and do this, right? And I can still help coach the team. I don't think they need me anymore, to be honest, but they make me feel good. So that's what this launch strategy was. And our strategy has evolved over the years, but this strategy was actually born of one of my account managers, and she was getting some insane results for some very aggressive launches. So there's one client we work with who he by default is aggressive. She was laughing. She's like, his conservative is somebody else's aggressive, which means we've actually discovered quite a few strategies just based on somebody who's willing to just go at it with that level of ad spend out of the gate. This launch strategy being one of them. And so like old school strategy used to be like, all right, you launch an auto campaign, you see what works, you grab it, you pull it into the manual. And then somebody was like, well, auto campaigns, that's terrible, it's a waste of money, so let's go manual. So then the whole launch things, exact phrase and broad, hedge your bases, do good keyword research, somewhere like 50 to 100 launch keywords and do that. And then on some point, somebody went, okay, so now you do single keyword exact match campaigns. So then everybody was like, all right, so now like, do I only keep it exact? Like, when do I launch the next stuff? Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And then when I put these campaigns up and there's like 0 impressions because the algorithm has shifted. And it used to be you could put something at a high bid and like Amazon was like, all right, spend your money. And these days you put it up, even if you put a high bid, it's like, can you take my money, Amazon? Like, please. They will take your money eventually. But the initial start seems to be a little bit slower. So we were going through it. I was like, all right, we need to kind of like probably revamp product launch strategies, because what we were finding is that you can do that initial like launch things, exact phrase and broad. That does work. We're like put a whole bunch of keywords out there and like a ton of different, trust me, I've seen some like laundry lists of like campaign launch strategies. And I'm like, dude, I don't think everybody has like $1,000 a day to throw out a launch.
Right.
There has to be some curation here. And so what we have been doing, it's working. We've launched quite a few products at even the very end of 2024 and into 2025. So what we have migrated to is, I don't even have the words yet to like name this strategy. I should, but we call it like you go super targeted, super aggressive. And so I've been down the rabbit hole reading like Amazon white papers on their algorithm. Everyone wants to know like what's the secret sauce to ranking. Well, really, at the end of the day, when you go through all of the literature and all the complexity and you listen to like every single guru and thought leader you can possibly come up with, you walk away with going, oh, focus on conversion rates, focus on order velocity. There's a lot more to it than that, but like, if I had to give you like 2 things, and you'll listen to like everyone like, this is really complicated. You're like, okay, so like what conversion rates and order velocity.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So what this strategy is aiming to do, because what typically happens is you launch a whole bunch of exact match campaigns, everybody goes super aggressive and like these won't work and these will work and like maybe something, and you're like, wait, what's actually my ranking keywords? Because like this one's kind of making orders, but I'm not ranking, and like this one's sort of totally working, and it feels a little bit. So what you do is you go crazy. What you're doing is you are paying the ad algorithm to say, show me where my conversion rates and my order sales velocity is. and you're going to pay to find that out, and then you're going to double down. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick somewhere between, my ad manager is saying she picks about 10 keywords. You might go up to 15. The reason why is because, full disclosure, you're going to be pushing your bids to get those initial impressions. So you have to be, what we found is that if you spread that over like 20 to 50 keywords, it could get really expensive really fast. You might need, like, if you have an idea of the product, you're focusing in on relevancy and you want a decent amount of search volume. Decent is like at least couple thousand search volume. Because our goal is, like, if we're pushing on it, we want to have enough sales or, search volume to like make it worth it for us to go aggressive on it, really.
Yeah.
So
when you say aggressive, you're like, higher than the $10 per keyword, like.
I'll tell you our bid optimization sequence. So this is the ninja piece of it, which is insanely labor intensive, but it works. Like, what I tell people is, if you want the results, you got to put in the work. So what we'll do is we'll pick our 10 launch keywords. We go volume and relevancy. Relevancy means go on Amazon, type in that search. Does my product fit on this search page? Yes or no? There's a whole debate going on now on LinkedIn. People are like, the keyword tools give you options. You curate them for relevancy. I don't give a crap what software tool you're using. If you're blindly picking, you're not making good choices. Like, make good choices.
Yeah.
Okay. So once you have those, you're going to put them in a single keyword, exact match campaigns. You're going to use fixed bidding strategy. And you can start with a $10 or probably a $15 budget. It's solid. We'll talk about budget optimization in a second. The goal of the budget, some people say, like, uncap budgets completely, never let it run out. The goal of the capped budget is so I can go insane on my bids, and I know I'm not going to like spend $2,000 a day. My goal in this initial phase is saying, which keywords give me sales velocity? Where do I have conversions? Where can I possibly rank? So you're going to send those 2 and 10 little lures out there. You're going to set your bids high, which is like 20 to 50 cents above the average cost per click or average suggested bid.
Okay.
And then you're going to launch those. Now, you may or may not get impressions. So here's where the work comes in. Once to two. She said twice a day. I was like, girl, she's like, no, twice a day. So either 1 to 2 times a day, what you're going to be doing is you're going to go into your account and you're going to say, am I getting impressions? Goal is impressions. Mm-hmm. We like to think of it as like the sales funnel, right? You get impressions and you get clicks, then you get orders. You got to get impressions to get clicks.
True.
So our goal is saying, where are we getting enough impressions? Enough impressions is like at least a couple thousand impressions. Okay. So that's what we're optimizing for, is just like, where are our bids high enough that the algorithm is going to give us enough impressions? And again, because we pick keywords with higher search volume, we know impressions should be there. If we pick like 200 search volume keywords, like maybe it's a search volume thing, right?
Right.
So after we do that, those initial optimizations, we just like, all right, we want to maximize impressions. Again, that's why we're also picking 10, because we're just going to go like all in. We're going all in. Then once you start to get the clicks, then you can start evaluating, do these keywords, quote, work? And so the goal is, do we get the clicks? And then do those clicks lead to orders? And then once we figure out where the clicks lead to orders, then we can go, okay, we've got these 5 keywords that are rocking it. We've got those other 4 that are iffy. And we got, what does that leave? Like 1 more that you're like, nope, it's a done. Turn it off. So what you can do is, once you start getting the clicks, then you can evaluate, again, that path to purchase, impressions, clicks, orders. And you say, oh, this one led, and you have to give it enough clicks to really determine if it works or not. Enough is going to be relative to your conversion rates. So how many clicks on average does it take me to convert to an order? That's 1 divided by my average conversion rate. Once you get at least 1 or 2 orders, you should have a ballpark idea. And you go, okay, it takes me 10 clicks on average. So I'm going to give these keywords, I don't know, 15 clicks to see if they work, maybe probably 20 just to hedge my bets. And then I could be like, okay, this leads to orders. When I say work, I do want to define, I'm saying, are we getting orders? Is the conversion rate good? I'm not saying good ACoS, because bids are high. We're probably not going to have good ACoS.
Yeah, you're doing this to find the conversion, to make sure that things will at least convert.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, I think, if your audience is pretty sophisticated, they should also know, like, if you're going after ranking, you're not typically going after profitability. So ACoS will probably be high, but again, as long as orders are there. Once you get that, solid bid that allows you to really generate the impressions, you can stop going aggressive with the bid optimizations. So I'm not saying like every single day go in and like raise your bids.
Sure.
Once you have those, and once you like get, sort of that data feedback, once you start getting the clicks, and I'm not even saying you have to go as aggressive as top of search. Some people will tell you that like top of search is all there is and there is nothing else.
Yeah, they're also trying to rank. So yeah, it's like depends what your goal is, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, it's like as long as we're getting enough clicks to validate this, you probably will end up at top of search because you're still going so aggressive. But I'm not going to say you can't test a ranking keyword if you're not top of search. Like if I can get spot 4 or 5 and I'm getting enough click volume that I can validate it, like that's good enough for me. And so from there, remember our budgets are capped because we're going aggressive. Now, depending on what the cost per clicks are in your space, you could be going very aggressive, hence less keywords. And so what we're doing is then we're saying, okay, we know that these are the ones that work. So we got our 5 keywords that work. Now we can uncap the budgets because we know that spend is going to lead to order volume. Mm-hmm. So we shift from more bid optimization to budget optimization. And then that allows us to scale up the campaigns that are working really well. And here's what else it does. It gives you a really direct, this is where your products work. So now I can also take those 5 keywords and I can go, okay, so these are the pages my product works on. What else can I do with these? Well, I can launch them in single keyword broad match campaign with a lower bid so I can gain long tail. I can, fun fact, product targeting actually has impact on keyword rankings. It won't have as much impact. Like you can't really rank without with only product targeting, but it will actually supplementarily help any like manual other keyword campaigns. So what we do is we go, okay, these are the ones that work. So let's go scrape the top 4 to 5 that are already ranking here. We'll get high placements on premium product pages. And then that will add to our rank strategy as well. You can also launch low bid auto. So like you're working from like data feedback, fast, quick, push bids. All right, we know what works. Great. Turn off the bad stuff. Push up budgets. Great. These work. All right, now let's shift into, like scaling strategy. And you can find that out pretty quick if you do it right.
Yes. And going back to since we're talking about product launch strategy, moving into scaling, for the conversion rate, what is, I'm asking you directly, everyone has their own opinion, but you're the expert. What is a safe conversion rate where you're saying, hey, your listing is converting enough right now for your launch phase that we can move into scale? And when is the threshold that you have to go back and do some A/B testing or whatever on your listing?
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends, but I'll tell you how to find the answer. Okay. So it really depends on your competition, because you've probably heard like averages on Amazon are 10%. That's true, but like averages in supplements are probably closer to 25 or 30%, and averages in clothing is probably between 2 and 5%. Like that's bad. So what do we just like randomly split the difference at 10 and say like that's where everybody needs to be? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
So we have to find out what our competitors are converting at.
Mm-hmm. And there's 2 ways you can find out. One of them is it's easier to check, but it's a bit more just like average because it's going to be for your entire brand in a specific category. So the first one is going to be brand metrics, which is located inside of your ad console. If you go to the far left hand, you pop it open. I'm trying to remember anyway, if you look under it, you can see brand metrics somewhere in there. And then from there, you'll go in, you'll select the brand you want to curate. And then you'll say, okay, what category do I want to look at? So it'll give you like categories and subcategories. You want to pick the category that's most relevant to yours. And then what you can do is I think you have to click, there's like a blue link, you have to click more or something. That will show you your conversion rate, again, for that brand. So however many products you have, versus the category averages conversion rate. Now this is going to include ads and it's going to include organic. So it's fabulous. So you're like, all right, we're roughly at the category averages. Fantastic. Great. I mean, maybe we could do some better improvements, but like, hey, category top tends to be pretty competitive. So most times what you'll see is like, say, category averages are like 15 and then the top is like 27 or something. So there's a pretty big gap. So you can just make sure that like you're at least at the category averages. That one's a little bit less granular, but again, if you know where it is and how to check it, it should probably take you like 2 minutes to check it. The other one you can check is search query performance reports. That will give it to you on a search query, basically like a search term level, and you can look at it for an individual child ASIN, which is really nice. So if you want to say like, all right, this is my newly launched product, go to search query performance report, type in the ASIN, probably type in last week, last month, depends on what date range I want to look at, and then say, okay, for each of these search queries, how does my conversion rate stack up to the competitors? Again, it's averages, but it's averages for that individual search, which is fantastic. So you'll get I don't think they calculate conversion rates for you, but they do give you your share of the clicks and your share of the purchases. And then they will give you like the total clicks and total purchases. So what you can do is you just divide conversion rate is clicks divided by orders, purchases in search query. So you can just do that math and be like, all right, am I higher or lower? And then depending on that information, you can figure out, okay, I need to do a little bit more work if I want to stack up, or okay, maybe I can at least go hard with it.
Yes. And then moving into scaling, keyword retargeting. Let's talk a little bit I want to talk about the retargeting and control of the bids, right? Because it can get a little like wild and expensive. So, what are you thinking for 2025 with keyword retargeting?
Keyword retargeting as in taking search terms and retargeting them, or the sponsored display ads where you retarget shoppers?
Yes, sponsored display ads, exactly.
Sponsored display ads. You want to know why sponsored display ads get so expensive?
Why? I am curious.
Most people don't know this. Sponsored display ads have a built-in, cannot be adjusted, cannot be turned off, dynamic up and down bidding of 300%. Which means if you put a 50-cent bid, Amazon can elect to give themselves the honor to raise your bid in the ad auction to, what is it, 3 times, I'm going to do the math wrong, but I think like $1.50, right? So all of a sudden your low bid became a really high bid. So that's why most people, actually a lot of people are scared of sponsored display because they're like, I tried it sucked, it's not working, I need to turn it off. So what we've seen is, one, I would always optimize these for profitability. So the one thing I tell sellers is like, optimize for profitability. So optimize for target low A costs. Sponsored display ads are insanely powerful, and we've seen them work wonders in accounts. They also don't have as much impact on organic market share or ranking. So for that purpose, I'm like, hey, if I'm not going to get like residual impact, meaning like sponsored product ads, we talk about high A cost for ranking. We're like, okay, so there's a goal here. Like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If I rank, if I have to go down on profits, I know eventually I can pull back for profits because I have higher sales. Like there's a end benefit. With sponsored display ads, there's not as much end benefit, if I'm being honest. So if you tried everything and you're like, I just can't get it to work, I'd be like, you know what? That's cool. Just don't use it. Yeah. But what I would hate for a seller to do is like be super afraid of them because they tried them once, couldn't figure it out, turned it off, and like never fully use this ad type. So what we have found is that it seems counterintuitive, but if you use the bidding strategy, optimize for page visits, which you would think optimize for conversions because like we want more conversions. But what we have found is that the optimize for page visits setting tends to have less of a cost per click increase than the optimize for conversions. If you don't know how to optimize VCPM, don't use it. If you do know how to use it, fine, you have my blessing. And when I say optimize it, VCPM in sponsored display ads, most sellers aren't really used to that model. It's a very traditional ad model, but it's instead of paying for clicks, you're paying for impressions. So like as long as somebody sees the ad, I'm going to pay for that. versus our traditional cost per click. It's like, well, if somebody didn't click on my ad, I'm not paying for it, right? Think of how much less we would spend if we had to pay for every time somebody saw our ad. It'd be like ridiculous. So what happens with the VCPM though is that sales get attributed to when somebody sees your ad. So think about it. Somebody's like shopping, they see your sponsored display ad, then they go somewhere else, and then they end up inadvertently purchasing your product. Well, because they saw your ad within a 14-day window, Amazon's going to say, oh, that ad is the thing that drove that sale. Which there's nothing like... I love the Amazon ad like community, but sometimes they're like, Amazon's lying to us. I'm like, they're very clear with how they calculate this. It's not that they're calculating that's how you calculate VCPM attributions. Yeah. It's just what happens when you do that. So when they first put out VCPM, people launched it and they're like, holy crap, I have like a 2% ACoS on like $1,000 of sales. This is ridiculous, right? I consulted with a brand. They spent $20K on sponsored display VCPM models. And by all accounts, in the ad console, it's like 4% ACoS. Why would you not spend money on 4% ACoS? Like you put $1 in and like money shoots out, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
But because it was being attributed to a view, no one was actually clicking through to the ad. So you can actually find the clicker attributed purchases. So I don't want to call this like your true ACoS, but it'll be like, these are the orders that actually came through somebody clicking through to your ad and purchasing versus just seeing it and like randomly purchasing. Yeah. He pretty much threw $20,000 out the window. And it was like, if you looked at it, so what you have to do is you have to download a bulk file and then look at the sponsored display. That will actually tell you line item by line item your click attributed ACoS. And then you could just like optimize for it. So now that we know what our click attributed ACoS is, you can see. So for his, it was like 4,000% versus 4. It was like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But there's some that we've run and we're like, the click attributed ACoS is like 25%. That's great. Let's keep doing it. Right. Yeah. So it's not that it's like not wrong or bad. It's just, you have to know, again, how to read the data and how to optimize for it.
Yeah. And it comes with learning. If you don't give it a shot, you have to learn, and it's good to have experts to rally around. I mean, we know that at BidX, and you know, at least your brand caught that and won't be wasting any more ad dollars, but they learned from the layer.
We weren't running those ads, by the way. I was consulting.
Yes. No, I got that from the story. Awesome. Well, thank you for going in depth and explaining that. I actually took notes on a lot of that for my brand. So super helpful dropping those knowledge bombs. Let's close it out with, what are you excited for with Jungler for the rest of 2025? Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Your team's growing. I've seen your name popping up, so it looks like things are going well.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. I would say I could probably tell you the next 3 months. I don't know if I could project the end of 2025. My gosh, things are moving at a mile a minute. They're talking about like singularity in 2030. Like, good Lord. I think so. The thing that I'm most excited about personally for me, and actually, funny enough, has led to really a lot of growth at the beginning of this year, and we're only like 13 days into it, is getting back to my ethos of people. I kind of got away with that. I got a little bit into the systems. Again, how I was talking about, like, you live and you learn, and you think you could go and do systems first, and then you lose. I'll be honest with you, I lost my spark a little bit at the end of 2024. Not that there was anything like wrong in what I was doing. I just it wasn't true to what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. It was what I thought I needed to do, not necessarily what I needed to do. And so when I finally hit a brick wall, picked myself back up from that, and I was like, all right, I don't want to do this. I realized that the stuff that I had been doing prior to that was the stuff that I really loved, which was listening to my team, listening to clients. So I'm back more into client facing a little bit and loving it. And then talking to brands a lot. So what I'm focused in on, and we'll see what that looks like for us in terms of growth. I have a feeling it's sort of the ethos that I say we, the team's always been solid. It's me trying to head it, really. Is really, I'm starting to kind of function like this connector piece to all three. So like taking in what my brand, again, like what my account managers are doing, coaching them through scenarios, talking to the clients, seeing what they need, making sure to connect that with what we're doing internally, and then looking outside of that and saying like, okay, what do brands who are not a part of our ethos or who are not working with us, really, what is it that they're looking for? How can we make sure that we're adjusting what we're doing based on, sort of the needs that I'm seeing in the market? And I think the reason why I had got away from that is that requires a lot of a lot of conversations, a lot of energy put towards that. And there was this thing, I have no idea where I got it from, but it was like, oh, like we've grown, we found some success. At some point you outsource. At some point you do the 4-hour work week. And if I want to do if that is what excites me, that takes a heck more than 4 hours a week.
It does.
But I've been doing that for like the end of December going into January. I'm like, I'm working harder and longer than I ever have, and I'm having the most fun I've had in months. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to keep doing it. We'll see what happens. I think as we get into a world that's more technology driven, that's more AI driven, I'm insanely excited to see how those things ideally can serve humanity and how that will make all of our lives better. But I think that even as we move more into that, it will also mean that human connection, it will be more important and more rare than it ever has been. So me focusing in on that human connection and trying to connect that to the technology and the data and see how that technology and data can serve what it is that we're trying to do as humans. I don't think that's a bad spot, at least to enter the year in. We'll see where I end up in December.
Yeah, no, I like that. You're in your season of kind of reconnecting to the people and what makes you happy. So that's awesome. And I hope to see you out at some of the events this year.
We shall see.
I'm always trying to get her out. I'm like, come on, leave Florida. It is a great place to live.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time today. And we hope to have you back. Really appreciate it.
Yes, I would love that. Thanks so much.